Big,
wide, and thick.
things that you may or may not want to be called depending on where, when, and how it's being said, Sean. But you can call me Theodore Tugboat up in this set because we're about to talk about the platform out there that feels like the equivalent of having a rope tied around your waist, and not in a good way, being thrown into the water only to find out that you're going tubing without a tube. That is what it feels like to drive one of these cars, and that is how the Dodge do. I'm Alex at FI on Instagram, and today we're going to be talking about the car that continues to be compared to like the symphony of the seas when it comes to the car scene, even though it can honestly like spank just about everything else on the road in a straight line without question at any point with reliability and high horsepower. A car that comes from a company that is likely one of the last few domestic companies keeping true to their roots in their vehicle production because they just don't give a shit. A car that makes everyone without any hair get in and immediately say, family, family. I can't eat. Family. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about you wanting to own a Dodge Hellcat. And if this is your first time, that's okay. Hi, I'm Alex. Welcome to Fitment Industries. We started this two, 3 years ago to help people find what fits for wheels, tires, and suspension for their vehicle. Got through the sentence. So we made a gallery where you can enter in your year, make, and model and see what fits. It's pretty honking big. And if you haven't yet, be sure to check us out over at fitmentindustries.com if you're looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, and suspension. Why talk about the Hellcat, Alex? It's not a sub $10,000 car. Well, okay, I get it. I understand. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's still a pretty fun car. And let me teach you why this car may or may not be the right pick for you if you like 1, fun, smiles, 2, fun, and 3, fun smiles, okay? The Challenger, which is what the trim is actually based on, was originally a value-oriented trim back in 1969 for the full-size Coronet. It did well enough that in the 1970s it broke into its own name. It had its ups and it had its downs. And then it had its really far down, particularly from 1978 to 1983 because it was an import disgusting monster. But for the most part, Dodge always had the want to bring the Challenger mark to the market once again, once it would allow it. So in 2006, it would come back, and it would come back wide, it'd come back muscly, and it'd look a little bit like it'd probably wear a white tank top on a Sunday morning for breakfast and also yell family whenever you were turning around. In 2008, it would get in bed with Daimler, which would give Dodge some cheat codes to new parts, which was a really good merger for them, or acquisition, or partnership, whatever you want to call it. Mostly from Mercedes-Benz though. This is where a lot of these parts would come from. That would start their Challenger in 2008 with a whole little nice revamp. And that's where the car really started to wake up, specifically in the rear multi-link suspension, which came from the W211 E-Class and control arms from the W220 S-Class. They're kind of just borrowing a couple things, all right? The merger worked for Chrysler, and it worked extremely well. So much so that Dodge decided to double down on the design of the most recent Challenger to enter into the new age horsepower wars that was coming into the mid-2010s. It worked, because in 2015, they introduced the Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat. Derived from the American Grumman, okay, Hellcat fighter aircraft from World War II, Dodge took the name to associate with its brash, aggressive, no negotiation style of car. The engine in the F6F still had more horsepower though than the Demon or Hellcat because it had like 2,000. Car only had 707, which really doesn't make it as impressive now, does it? Not as fast as an airplane. Why'd you buy it? So why did Dodge make a 707 horsepower supercharged 6.2 liter Hemi V8 with a name that aligns with its driving experience? Because they could. And this is really the most hilarious thing. And it was pretty much the car that shut out any car in the muscle car category when it came to just simple horsepower numbers. Previously on the top of the podium was the 662 horsepower Ford Mustang GT500, which ended up still being short 45 horsepower compared to this new big red, somewhat heavy, wide, tall beam. The brand new Hellcat would go 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds, but what really touted it was the 11.7 quarter mile, and it just couldn't keep traction to save its life, but to run an 11-second stalker, which was nuts. Which is why Dodge would give you 2 keys. One for a peasant 500 horsepower, which was lame apparently, and then you get a red key, give you the full 707 horsepower. The car was also noticeably different from its other trims sometimes with it missing a headlight for airflow, wider wheel wells, and some aero that makes you think you could potentially take out a small bird while going down the highway. Just so everybody's aware, please take off the bumper guard. Please do that. But they did build it because they could, and that's actually a quote from Chris Cowlin, the director of SRT powertrain development, and that is, honestly, that's just badass. And that's everything with this car, from the power plant creation being done in secret in hopes to sidewind the industry, which it did, to the fact that you could get this power out of a very, relatively, reliable domestic V8 from a dealership was just nuts. I mean, it was something that really came out of the woodworks, and a lot of people loved it because knew they were coming in around $60,000, and they stayed around that. And it buckled the decline in the traditional passenger car sales, which were occurring over the past 5 years, by nearly doubling its own forecasted sales for the platform. So much so that Dodge has now introduced a plethora of additional trim options, more crazy horsepower, and an interior that doesn't feel like my Jeep Cherokee Latitude Edition. Because honestly, that's the one thing that they just didn't really get right, was the interior. It's a little rough, but for $60,000, I'm not gonna complain. It doesn't matter if you're in a cloth seat or if you're in your leather seat when you're going 180 miles an hour. And that's why we're done talking about the history of the crazy ass car, okay? That's not what we're here for. You want more of that? Go watch Vin Diesel take his Hellcats off like a 30-story building or something, or jump off Sahara Desert, or punch somebody, or punch the ground and the whole thing, I don't know, family. But the car is sick, so here we go. No, we are here to talk about you wanting to own one of these bad boys. So you want a Dodge Challenger Hellcat, all right? Well, set down any foreseeable compliments from your friends about your car and grab your favorite change of drawers, because we're going to talk about what it's like to actually own one of these King da Ka feeling cars. If you're looking to own a Dodge Hellcat, there's a couple 2-3 things that you're going to want to keep in mind prior to buying, because these are just a little bit more expensive. Number one, Dodge built this car because they could, and if ego was built into a car, this was the one Dodge did it with, and they touted that the entire time. What this means for you is that if you're buying a used variant, which you're likely going to, you're going to be picking up a little bit of what we would call a damp towel, okay? Because for the most part, the car was 95% abused. It just is. It's a damn tire shredding. It's a 700 horsepower tire shredding, rear-wheel drive, drag prepped Fanatic car. And don't believe anyone that says they didn't do anything stupid with theirs when you're looking for one. There's no way they didn't, okay? They did. They're just hoping that you didn't notice. It's your job when you go to pick up one of these cars to notice those things, because a lot of times there's gonna be a lot of wear and tear. And because of the first thing I said, lots of potential issues revolve around the accelerated wear on both the car and the wearable items that the car is attached to, okay? Keep an eye on the following. You're gonna have, or you will see, maybe some defective oil cooler lines, shredded tires, transmission failures or leaks, drive system failures with axles, they do pop, paintwork touch-ups, especially on the front end. And because it's a Chrysler, the good old classic electrical faults with windows, gear selector, and stereo, specifically in the first couple years. They did kind of sorting that out by raising the price and making it a little bit higher quality, but it's something to keep in mind. The first year Hellcat came out, it was rated extremely well by JD Power, and if you maintain the car, you should be relatively okay. You just need to pick it up from somebody that actually cared about it. But a lot of these cars were owned by 45-year-olds going through a midlife crisis and treated this car like you treated your first car at 16, with lunch trays on the rear wheels in the wintertime because you wanted to drift around the planet streets in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Don't tell me how I know that, I just did it. And then I hit a mailbox. Also, remember that the gas, insurance, tires, and very limited weather alignment will cause this car to likely sit more than you think. But if you're looking for an off-meta show build or something that not many people have in the scene right now, you're gonna wanna get a Hellcat because they are a banging good deal. As long as you don't mind not driving it in the rain, because you really don't have the best traction. You're gonna just slide all over the place, and because you're young, you're gonna have an ego and you're gonna crash. Most people are going to end up going with a wider wheel setup if you do end up going with wider aftermarket wheels. Usually a 20 by 9.5 and 20 by 11 is a really nice fitment. The wider wheels do a good job at filling the wheel well without losing too much function. And the wider or taller wheels, the diameter helps it a ton. After all, it's either 90% though stock suspension, or if you want to be a cool cat, you slam it on air suspension. Because the cars are typically shaped like a donut with filling inside, slamming the car on the crown gives it an incredible look that sleeks up the entire car. These cars from factory are not low in any way, shape, and form, and you'll actually notice that they feature a little bit of a rake. So the aftermarket suspension does help tighten everything up. It seems like the Hellcat is one of those cars that does get a little bit of flack, mostly around its weight. Obvious focus on straight line performance. I get it, all right? And simple designs. I mean, there's not really a whole ton to look at. But if you're looking for a car that fits into the younger enthusiast community, like the WRXs, S2000s, Type R, this isn't gonna be the car. And it was never really built for that scene to do that stuff. It was built to give a middle finger to anyone that questioned Dodge's commitment to making a car that focused on fun, aggressive, conventional drag drag racing that wasn't gonna cost six figures and really never wanted to begin with. It's a $60,000 car that was new and is now like $40,000 that checked boxes that no other car in the same price point ever did. And if you get over the somewhat simple interior and the fact that it's still just a little bit wonky and wide, this is a car that you'd fall in love with in absolutely no time. It's a cheaper version of a Mercedes AMG pre-depreciation with more power stock. It's a Mustang with more presence. It's a Corvette that doesn't take itself so seriously. It's a car that will likely teach you that JDM isn't the only type of car you can buy for $40,000 used, and that may not be a bad thing, because having a little variety in the scene didn't hurt anybody. If you've ever knocked a Hellcat, find a friend on a forum and go for a ride. Then, while you're changing your pants after your first ride, check out your local marketplace where you can maybe find one for yourself, because there's not many times I've found people not enjoy a smoky burnout for like ripping to 100 miles an hour in a 700 horsepower car. You just can't not enjoy that. I don't understand how you could enjoy, like, how do you not enjoy that? But what do you think about the Dodge Challenger Hellcat? Too much? Not enough? Maybe a little bit in the middle? You saw a little intake, exhaust, wheels, tires, suspension, slam it on the ground, some 20x9s, 20x11s. Ah! It looks so good. But if you're looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to hit us up over at fitmentindustries.com, where we have everything you could possibly want for your newly acquired Hellcat or otherwise. I'm Alex from Fitment Industries, and we will see you later. Peace.